The invasion that for the Allied forces marked the beginning of the path to victory in World War II is often referenced in popular culture. There's no shortage of movies that depict the day 150,000 soldiers landed on the beaches of Normandy, an attempt to shake Europe loose from the grips of Hitler and Nazi Germany.
I was a helmsman.
However, for one Kamloops man, D-Day isn't something you watch on the big screen. It's something he lived.
It was like hell on water, really, because you don't know what's going to happen next, and you just have to think back of the training that you had and be very careful about what they taught you.
Ernie Smith, a prairie boy, was 20 years old when, as a captain in the Navy on training maneuvers in England, he was deployed to Juno Beach in northern France. He steered his landing craft ashore from the HMCS Prince Henry in what was the largest seaborne invasion in history.
During that time, you're scared. No one can ever say that they're not scared, because you are frightened, of what's happening, but it's got to take place, and you've done it before, so let's do it right.
His craft was one of the first to make landfall on Juno Beach amid Allied planes laying down smoke screens, a barrage of German gunfire from above, and a literal minefield closer to shore.
I was very, very careful because of the mines that were in the water on the waterfront. You had to zigzag your way through the minefield.
Ernie Smith made 2 successful landings, but wasn't so successful on the return trip.
On the way out, I got hit by mortar fire, a landing craft, and it caught fire. So I abandoned, myself and my crew. I have a small crew on there with an engineer that took care of the engines. We abandoned the craft, got into the water and swam away from it because we knew it would blow up.
The craft hit a mine and exploded. With pieces of his vessel raining down on him, Ernie swam the over 100 yards to the beach.
And we ran ashore and ran down the beach, ducking behind logs and bodies and anything else that you could duck behind when the shooting started again, to get onto another landing craft.
He wasn't killed, but he was injured. Ernie was taken back to his ship to be patched up.
My arm got injured in the explosion on the back of my head. Got burst open from flying debris from the landing craft. I got into another landing craft, and I was maybe on that ship an hour, and I was back landing more troops with another landing craft.
National statistics say 359 Canadians died on Juno Beach that day 70 years ago. Ernie is thankful he wasn't one of them. He puts his survival down to 2 things: skilled training and prayer.
Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition.
Believe me, it helps. It really does help. That's hard to understand for a lot of people, but it's true. I'm a survivor. I'm right here. I've lived, 90 years. I never knew that I was going to be a part of it until, probably maybe 3 weeks before D-Day happened in May. We were practicing what we call evolutions. That's practicing to do landings on certain kind of beaches, certain kind of weather. And most of it we did on the Isle of Wight in England. And then we knew something was going to happen, because at that time, like people like myself, all mail is restricted, coming and going. You don't send any mail out, and you get no mail. So something is going to happen. It's going to be soon, because I had made 9 landings before, So I knew something's going to happen. It's going to be big. Well, it was no different than other landings to me. I knew it was going to be big, because we knew that we were slowly fighting back, because at that, prior to that, a year or 2 before that, we almost lost the war. And we knew that we had to get a foothold in Europe. And we did from the other side, because there'd been landings, in Italy and North Africa and all in through the Mediterranean and the Adriatic Sea, But we had to get a foothold in, from the division that would be off of where England is, the English Channel. We had to get a foothold in there, but we knew this was going to happen, but we didn't know where. Well, the ships, you got to remember, don't come in too close to the shore. They lay off, and they lot of heavy bombardment from the ships, and they were given their direction by the planes that flew over. There was lots of planes laid down smoke screens, and sometimes I know when I came in, I was very, very careful because of the mines that were in the water on the waterfront. You had to zigzag your way through the minefield. During that time, you know, you're scared. No one can ever say that they're not scared, because you are frightened, you know, of what's happening, but you know it's got to take place, and you've done it before, so let's do it right, and be very careful on how you do it. So, in the landings, when I say, you know, the waves are running anywhere from 4 to 8 feet high coming in on the beach, and you know, on the beachhead where we are at Juneau. And because there was no breakwater established, whereas on Omaha Beach, the Americans laid down a lot of breakwater they sunk a bunch of old pieces of junk ships and what have you to create a breakwater. So when you got into the beach, you know, the water was half calm, you know, but when it's high and dry. But I was fortunate enough that the troops that I brought in, I brought them. I can't remember on Juneau ever, or even you know, on Omaha Beach, bringing in troops where they didn't land them high and dry, which means they didn't jump off in 2 feet of water. You know, they got right up onto the beach, and I landed my first landing really good, very successful, wigging away through the smoke screen and what have you. And then my second load, I came in, and I got them in very well, right up onto the beach, you know. You, like us now, I've already been there once, and I've made many other landings before, so I kind of know what to expect and what's going to happen because they're shooting at you. Anyway, on the way out, I got hit by mortar fire, a landing craft, and it caught fire. So I abandoned, myself and my crew. I have a small crew on there with an engineer that took care of the engines. We abandoned the craft, got into the water, and swam away from it because we knew it would blow up. I had lost all the steering in the mechanism of the craft, and it swung over, and it hit a mine. And of course, when it hit a mine, it went straight up. And it blew up into many, many pieces. And from there, we swam ashore. We were probably 100, 150 yards off the beach. And we ran ashore and ran down the beach, you know, ducking behind logs and bodies and anything else that you could duck behind when the shooting started again, to get onto another landing craft. And we got onto a landing craft and brought us back out to the mothership, where there was medical attention and what have you, and a cup of hot coffee, and what we used to call a bully beef sandwich. And then once you got straightened out and patched up, which I did, my arm got injured in the explosion on the back of my head, got burst open from flying debris from the landing craft. I got into another landing craft, and I was maybe on that ship an hour, and I was back landing more troops with another landing craft. But the minefields were swinging around because of the waves, you know, and the mines are actually tied down to pillars. They look like posts in the water. That's what you'd define them as. And they were tied to that. And of course, as the tide comes and goes, it either slackens or tightens the line that they're hooked onto, eh? So you got to watch which way the tide is running and which way the wind is running to go through the minefield, because you don't know whether you're going to hit one or not, you know. Hopefully that was the only incident that occurred to me, you know, and that was at Normandy on Juneau Beach. The military men that were aboard, those guys knew they were landing, and this was an invasion. They knew they had been trained for this, and a lot of them were very excited, you know, like let's go and let's clean it up and let's really do it. And they did. There was nobody said I'm not going or turn back or anything. Oh no, 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 no. They knew this was their job and they were going to do it and do it well. So the feeling in the craft was excitement, as it would be, but a lot of the controlling people in the craft, the military people, they held their men down, you know, tried to keep them calm. Just remember what you've learned, because where we landed, there was a beach, and then you had to go up the beach about another 50 feet, and then there was an embankment like this, straight up. And they had to, the original troops had to get up there and put in, you've seen those climbing ladders with the squares of rope on them. They had to put those up so the rest of the military guys that came in could get up there. And this was already done with the first landing. They threw up grappling hooks to start with and pulled those up under fire. But they were in close enough that the Germans that were at the top were shooting. They couldn't shoot down, you know. They were shooting out towards we were in the water. I saw many, many people fall. Yeah, lots of gunfire, lots of big stuff come over. Every so often you'd hear a lopper coming in and real heavy, you know. And sometimes it just blew a hole in the water, you know, kind of thing, or landed on the beach and blew a hole there. We were fortunate enough that, you know, the Germans never really thought this was going to happen, I think, and they really it was a surprise to them, thinking, hey, what they wouldn't dare do this to us. And their Panzer Division, their tanks, were still a number of miles away. Had they had the Panzer Division right at the top of the hill there, we'd have been very, very lucky to have not made it. But they didn't. Germans didn't expect this to happen. They didn't think that the Allied forces would have enough nerve, you know, to step in so close. It's very similar to the Americans on Pearl Harbor. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, the Americans laid back and says, how that couldn't happen. That's impossible. It must be just a practice run and they've made a mistake. The Americans really didn't think Pearl Harbor was happening, but it was. And the same thing was there. The Germans didn't. And don't underestimate the German people. Their forces were good. Very, very good. And they had highly skilled military men, you know, that were good at what they did. I knew at the time we fought for freedom. We were fighting for freedom. And we've got it. If we hadn't won the war, and we did come very close to not winning the war, we wouldn't have the freedom that we got now. Not at all. And it was that and the help of the good Lord that made us. That's another part of this that I never ever spoke about. But before making a landing, you know, coming off the ship, all the captains, the skippers of the landing craft, we knelt in a circle on the quarterdeck and we prayed. And we prayed for the landing and our survival, that it would last, that we would survive that given day, and that everything was going to go right for us. And if tomorrow showed up, it would take care of itself, kind of a thing. But we did pray, and we prayed a lot. And I must tell you, the humor part of it all was in the Navy. When you join the Navy, you get a choice of two religions. To which one do you belong to? Are you a Catholic or are you a Protestant? And most of the Navy guys said they were Catholics. Not that they were, but they said they were. And the only reason they really said it, this kind of a standing joke used to be that because the Catholics got more days off during the year, you know, because they had all the different saints' holidays and what have you. So they got more days off. So everybody said they were a Catholic. But when we knelt in a circle, we prayed. You prayed your own prayer. And we had a a cross section of religious people that were believers, and I being one.
How many runs did you make that day?
I can't remember because we started, and if you read the poem, you'll know that we made many, like we had like about 3,500 troops on that ship, and a landing craft where you can only take like up to about 50 men on each load, eh? And you got 8 landing craft, you know. So you figure that out, how many trips it takes to just unload that one ship. And our sister ship was there also. My ship was the Prince Henry. That's this picture that you have.
Right.
And our sister ship that was also with us did the same work as we did, the Prince David. It was unbelievable to the point where the other landings, we never had as many men as we did at the Normandy, at D-Day. D-Day, they went all out. I mean, they really, everybody, because we got to get a foothold, you know, into France, and that was the foothold into Europe. I knew my water abilities were very good, unknown to most people. That's why I ended up in that division, because I was a swimmer and a diver. Had there been Olympics in 1940, I would have swam in the Olympics. I was a swimmer. And I knew what I could do, and I learned hard hat diving first, and then I learned scuba diving in England, and my first taste of scuba diving was in Portsmouth, England. I have a lot of, you know, views, opinions. I just recently, actually last December, my name went in for a nomination to receive the French Foreign Legion Medal, which is the highest award the French give to their military people. And now the French government have decided that they would give it to all the military men and the survivors of the military men, this medal for D-Day. And I got a phone call a couple of months ago from the Veterans Affairs in Ottawa, in Charlottetown is where Veterans Affairs office is. And they wanted to know if I would, how interested I would be to go to France to receive this medal. And after discussing it with them thoroughly, it's not a simple process for me because I'm seeing impaired, and I have to have somebody with me all the time, and I'm lucky enough to have my wife with me. My wife does all the driving and takes care of me very, very well. But I told them that, you know, we discussed what the costs would be, and the costs were a little more than I felt, you know, for me to go over there to receive a medal. You know, it would have been great, but I said, I'm sorry, but if you're going to hand them out, then you can send me mine by mail, you know. But to this date, I haven't heard any more. But they did tell me I was in line to receive one. And I'm sure Al Sims was also.
Are you thinking back to what happened 70 years ago, or are you thinking, you know, how important it is that people today are educated about how important D-Day was?
Yes, I wish that people would think about it more often than on the given day, as they do on Remembrance Day, you know, because very few people don't really understand what, you know, what it's all about. More so because of their how long they've lived on this earth. A lot of them, like, are young people. They don't know what war is like or what war was like in that given day and that age, you know. And I think of it now, and I've been fortunate enough that up till now this morning I've already received 2 phone calls saying thank you for your service for D-Day. World War II is getting to be a memory bank such as when I was young, World War I was, you know, it was a thing that you read about and heard about, but you didn't experience. But this one, I experienced. I was there, you know, and I know what happened. And it's hard to spell out exactly because it was like, you know, it was like hell on water, you know, really, because you don't know what's going to happen next. And you just have to think back of the training that you had and be very careful about what they taught you. Because I remember distinctly when I was in Portsmouth taking some extracurricular training, I remember an instructor there telling me, you know, kid, you maybe broke your mother's heart when you left home, but you'll never break mine. Now get going, you know. And those are the things you remember. You remember that. And to this day, that man was, I was very upset with him at the time because I was young, a youthful boy, you know. But, you know, now I can say thank you because I owe my life to him probably. Because many of the things he taught me were stuff that I learned. It was a skill that I learned to do it and do it well. And it was for survival. I did survive. The 359 is only the national statistics number, you know. I would be willing to bet you there was 5 times more than that men injured, you know, that didn't die, that lost a leg or an arm or whatever, you know. That a lot of people were injured. The deaths, we're not even sure, you know, that is a number that they've registered somewhere along the way. Because, you know, I'm sure you've heard of the tomb of the unknown soldier. There's men that are buried over there that they don't even know who they buried. And many, many people, they say, well, my uncle or my grandfather, whatever, went over there and he was in the war, and he never came back, but we never got we don't know, you know, did he survive or did he not survive? And, you know, so you really don't know any exact numbers, but I find myself very, very fortunate in having survived, and I owe it to, you know, the training that I got, the skillful training, and I also believe that I did it because I prayed. Believe me, it helps. You know, it really does help. That's hard to understand for a lot of people, but it's true. I'm a survivor. I'm right here. You know, I've lived, you know, 90 years.